Of all the places I've had the privilege to hunt around the world, Montana is certainly one of my favorites. I went to college here way back when at Montana State University. It's actually where I started doing television. Believe it or not, I was the weatherman in Bozeman, Montana 20 or more years ago. And I love coming back here whenever I can. And this is something you don't want to miss. I'm Steve Gruber. This is Excalibur's Outdoor America. Stay with us. This is going to be a show you're going to tell your friends about.
Getting our Montana legs under us. Adjusted the climate a little bit. Beautiful weather. The report for the week is good. I've got an elk tag, a deer tag, and a bear tag, so rock on, I hope.
The elk tag is the first one Steve aims to fill as he hunts with Mark Shutey of Stockton Outfitters. Early in their hunt, they have a bull right in front of them. Unfortunately, Steve has not quite caught up to the guide and the cameraman.
I told you I didn't like Starbucks. We stopped at Starbucks.
We stopped at Starbucks. You know what's sad about that, Steve? The bull comes walking down the trail. I hit the cow call. I look back to say, go ahead, take that shot, because there was a lane. There was a good lane right on that bull's vitals. And
Mother Nature just tapped me on the shoulder.
Steve's back in behind me. I'm not sure if it's when you turned around to come catch up. They boogered him out of there, or what the heck happened?
I never heard him coming, never saw him. I had stopped to, you know, get rid of the Starbucks issue. Sorry about that. I'll try not to take any unauthorized bathroom breaks from here out because, you know, it's just no good.
Well, you know, when a guy says it's time to slow down, let's start creeping. Usually you don't stop and take a but, you know, that's,
you know.
Let's get rolling, baby.
As the week progressed, Steve and Mark logged a lot of miles and saw a lot of game, including pronghorn antelope, mule deer, and moose. And later in the week, exactly what they were looking for, a nice bull elk.
With the rifle, it's over. You know, muzzy moments aren't always measured in inches, but sometimes in the experience. I'm just going to say that because we have faced every challenge that we could here in Montana this week. The elk were quiet, the wind has been strong, but I bring the Firefly with me because I think that at least the one thing we can control is knowing where the wind comes from. Firefly, as you probably know, samples wind 64 times per second. And then it'll give you a lock on it. That's exactly right. The wind's drifting downhill. And what's cool about this, it works in the dark. If you're out here trying to find an elk and it's an hour or two before daylight, or you're in your tree stand an hour or two before daylight, it works. Like those puffers, doesn't get clogged up, doesn't weigh anything. It's perfect and exactly right for what we're doing because we're going to sit on the side of, a stand of trees where we saw that big bull, that big herd bull we saw earlier today, which we figure is 300 inches or better, just a beautiful bull. We had some snow today, some rain today, so the timber's real quiet right now, so we hope we can sneak in real quietly. We're gonna set up for about an hour and just listen and watch because they're not responding. So we're gonna see if we can get into their zone and maybe see them and put a spot and stalk out. Conditions for a spot and stalk are real good right now. If that doesn't work, in about an hour, Mark's gonna try something you don't normally hear about. It's a distress calf call for an elk, and it works on bears in the spring. But he says oftentimes when he does that and hits that distress call, the elk come in to defend the calf, obviously. So if that's what we're down to, that's what we're going with. It's the fourth quarter. Suck it up, Buttercup. Let's get it done.
Sure enough, Mark did try a distressed calf call. Unfortunately, not even this ace up the sleeve did the trick. As Steve's October hunt with Mark Shutey of Stockton Outfitters drew to a close, snow began to fall. It gave Steve a taste of what things would be like when he returned to Montana in November.
Let me tell you about cold. It is really cold this morning. Set up on the Tongue River on this double bolt blind. Just had about 130-inch 9-point, 3.5-year-old buck cruise by. But it's like 5 below, 6 below, maybe 7 below now. Fresh blanket of 2 or 3 inches of snow overnight. Montana, last handful of days of the season. It's the day before Thanksgiving, and baby, it is cold. Yeah.
With the very low temperatures, Steve headed into town in pursuit of some cold weather gear.
Welcome to Billings, Montana. Cabela's, it's 1 degree below zero. Balmy, we're a little cold this morning. Had that buck go by us, so we need a couple of things. I need some boot blankets. I want to get a bigger ground blind, so where do you go? World's foremost outfitter anywhere in the world. Today we're in Billings, Montana, and I've got to be warmer. You know, while we're here, it's always good, even in cold weather, to not smell. You know, just hunt. Don't worry about the wind. That's why dead downwind is here. So we're gonna take some of this with us as well. Might find some other things. That's the thing. The problem with me and Cabela's is I go in with one thing in mind. I guess it's like the woman, my wife or whatever, going to the mall. You know, you go in with one thing in mind, allegedly, but you end up getting dead downwind. You find your blind, you get some boot blankets, you get some hand warmers, you get whatever, because it's like the candy store for kids like me. So we'll take this with us.
After shopping at Cabela's, Steve set up the ground blind for his morning sit and sat directly on the ground in the evening. He did have a doe come near him, but she didn't stay for long. The next morning, he returned to his ground blind.
I thought that was a big whitetail coming through. I caught that chocolate rack and I'm thinking, shoot her, shoot her, shoot her. It looks like an old mule deer, a 3x4 with one brow tine. I'm gonna hold out again. Because I've seen so many bucks. We've seen 2 other mule deer bucks that are much bigger than he is. We've seen a bunch of whitetail bucks that are just fabulous. I coulda. Maybe I shoulda.
For the record, Steve is freaking nuts. I would have dropped that deer in a heartbeat.
For the record, you can't shoot a Boone and Crockett if you tag out on a smaller deer. It's the second day of our hunt. We've seen bucks everywhere. That's the first mule deer we've seen down on the river bottom. And we're gonna stick it out. It's only 9 o'clock. I think that's the 10th deer we've seen today. Really cool mule deer. I mean, how heavy he was. And he looked really old to me. I'm not an expert on mule deer, but he looked old. The way his body was all, you know, big chest and big belly.
Good Lord, 2 big bucks. I can't take this.
It's a whitetail. Did shoot it.
Now today, being Thanksgiving, we have to count what we're thankful for. We're thankful for the big mule deer buck that came by moments ago. We're thankful for this big weird whitetail that just came by with a weird beam thing going on, but it was a young deer. I think Jake there behind the camera might go into full cardiac arrest any second now. Shoot him, no. Shoot him, no. Not shoot him. Young deer with like a 6-point frame or an 8-point frame plus that goofy. But that deer next year or the year after, if he holds on to that goofy extra beam, that's gonna be a legend somewhere. So this is what it's like hunting in eastern Montana. We're at the last few days of the season. Season wraps up on Sunday. And it's been cold and snowy. And guess what? The deer are moving, and we've seen a lot of really good bucks. So when I do pull the trigger and burn some powder, Jake's gonna dance around like a happy little kid that he is behind the camera. Plus, look at all the great deer we've seen. We're having fun here in Outdoor America today, aren't we? Aren't we having fun? Now, Jake, take a deep breath. Okay, we're good.
For the rest of the day and into the next morning, Steve continued to see deer. But he still hadn't taken a shot.
It's day 3 here in Montana, and before coming here, I'd never heard of the Tongue River, and we've decided that for tonight, we're gonna slide into that tree stand. We can get in there and film along the river, because a lot of those bucks we see are cruising that riverbank and through the thick stuff in the bedding areas.
As Steve settled into his blind, the wind began to pick up. Fortunately, the deer also began to show up, including one that got Steve pretty excited.
Jake, that's a good buck. There's a really good buck right along the edge right there. It's a really good buck. You seeing him? You seeing him?
Don't move. He's down.
I know.
He's down.
I know. Okay. That's a big shooter, a big Montana whitetail. The Benelli finally spoke. It's on our property here. There's a little problem though. There's a river here called the Tongue River between me and there. And we've got to get there. But that whitetail piled up. The Benelli reached right out, baby. Right here on Excalibur Outdoor America. We're gonna go find that big boy in just a minute. Thank you, Montana. We're burning daylight. We couldn't get across the river very well. Had to come all the way back around. I'm backtracking the wrong way because the deer ran this way. He's right there. He didn't go but about 100 yards maybe, just like I thought. That Benelli got her done, baby. The R1, you know, I talk to people all the time, don't realize Benelli has a rifle. Well, let me tell you something about this 10-point from Montana. That's gonna be a 140 or better buck, which is what I came here for. We've seen some better deer, but third day of the hunt, this was a gift. Perfect shot in the shoulder. I mean, come on.
Now that Steve Gruber has his buck, it's Steve Sharf's turn to try to get a whitetail of his own.
Now, Steve Sharf is an amazing individual. 21 years ago, he was working for the power company, working on high power lines, and he had an accident, a severe accident where he lost his right arm and his right leg above the knee. But what Steve Sharf didn't lose was his spirit and his heart, and he's an amazing guy. He's got the best attitude of anybody I've ever met that's had a severe, crippling injury, if you will.
We saw a buck this morning. We figured out what angle we thought it was taking and gonna come into our place, and we just got set up, and it looks real promising. We didn't blow anything out of here, so we're gonna hang tight here and see what happens.
For Steve and videographer Jacob Keel, it all came together very quickly.
Steve just came by, and we waved him over and told him we got one down, and he still doesn't quite believe us. I think he thinks we're pulling a prank on him.
How'd you do, young man?
The most unique animal I've ever shot. Doesn't actually have a third pedicle, but it starts right at the base and comes all the way from the base and probably 12-inch long, extra point, and is an animal that's going on my wall.
You got busy with that deer that we saw.
Yes, yes.
Excellent. Where was he? Where is he?
He's laying right down there.
He's a little better than I thought.
What an amazing place, the Tongue River. I guarantee you this, if it wasn't featured before, it'll be featured a lot going forward. That is a neat, neat deer. That's gonna make a neat European mount.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a different sort of creature. I'm surprised how long this beam is. Yeah, I didn't give this buck enough credit apparently when he walked by.
So do you believe that's from injury, or would he grow that way again next year?
Well, his legs all look to be intact, so I don't think it's from injury. I don't know if that's just I believe he would have grown it again like that, but you never know. Yep. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. I don't see a leg injury on the rear, which would normally, you know, cause a mutation on the opposite side the following season then going forward, but I guess we'll never know. Yep. I guess we're never gonna know.
Hi, my name is John. We're hunting in the Tongue River, and you're watching